Healthy favorite smoked turkey from Oscar Mayer. This is the real thing. Nothing funny. It's real turkey breast that's naturally low in fat and only 12 calories a slice.
And the taste? Well, the proof's right here.
New healthy favorites from Oscar Mayer. Who else would you trust?
It began not with a clean sheet of paper, but with a 75-year history. A history of building automobiles that make the most of the driver's skill. Because how you drive is as important as what you drive. BMW introduces a car that could improve both. The BMW 325 IS Coupe.
Once, as part of a television story, I drove a lap at the Indianapolis Speedway. Got up to about 95, scared myself to death, and backed down. So I would like to express my admiration for Jim Crawford, who set a practice lap record at Indy yesterday. He went around at an average speed of 229.6 miles an hour. The big auto race there in Indy is 3 weeks from today. We won't go into the basketball and hockey playoffs. If you care how the games came out yesterday, you already know. Baseball's division leaders this morning are San Francisco and Pittsburgh in the National League. And in the American, Oakland and, who's this, atop the American League East? The Baltimore Orioles by percentage points over Toronto. The Wonder Horse from France, a Rossi, was supposed to win the Kentucky Derby yesterday. And in the backstretch, passing horses, he looked like a winner.
He is now charging up in the middle of the racetrack. A Rossi is flying. A Rossi on the outside. Now,
but as the field turned for home, a Rossi's race was already over. Coming down the middle of the track on the left of the screen there was a little noticed long shot, Lil E.T. with jockey Pat Day wearing the bright orange colors.
Takes command.
You could have bought Lil E.T. for $2,000 a couple of years ago. Don't you wish you had?
E.T. on the outside has the lead by one. Casualize is second. Lil E.T. wins the
Casualize finished second. Dance Floor was third. A Rossi a well-beaten eighth. Pat Day won his first Derby after 10 years of trying. In the winner's circle, he said, all in God's good time. It's been warm around the Great Lakes for a few days now, but this morning a curtain of cool air is unfurling from north to south. So while the rest of the country luxuriates in 70s, 80s, and 90s, places like Milwaukee, Detroit, and Buffalo will have to settle for a temperature in the 50s. The New York City area will have one warm day this week. Today's the day. It'll cool off tomorrow. The South and the interior far west will have a hot day. It was 96 yesterday in Sacramento, a little warm for May. Nothing very dramatic on today's weather map. Light showers around the Great Lakes as noted. Light showers in Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas. Scattered thunderstorms in the southwest. Otherwise a sunny Sunday. Tomorrow the Great Lakes chill will grow chillier, with a mixture of rain and snow showers dipping southward into the Appalachians. It's going to stay cool and gray in that part of the country most of this week, we think. New Mexico and West Texas will have some more showers tomorrow. Sunshine in the rest of the country. When you can take a sunbath in Seattle, you know it's a lovely Monday in May. Those white policemen beat Rodney King. We all saw it. The white jury that saw it too said the policeman did nothing wrong. And black Los Angeles exploded in anger. That is the milepost by which we will remember last week, of course. Hundreds of thousands of words have been spoken all over radio and television about that amazing verdict in Simi Valley, California, and the appalling violence that followed. Police chiefs and governors and mayors all have had their say. President Bush had his. We're going to add our few words this morning. I thought the best words were the ones Rodney King said. He doesn't have a speechwriter. He spoke his words from the heart while the fires were still burning. People, he said, I just want to say, you know, can we all get along? Can we get along? Can we stop making it horrible for the older people and the kids? We'll get our justice, he said. They won the battle, but they haven't won the war. We'll have our day in court, and that's all we want. And just, I'm neutral. I love people of color. It was clear he meant people of every color. We've got to quit, he said. Please, we can get along here. We all can get along. I mean, we're all stuck here for a while. Let's try to work it out. That's what Rodney King said.
Risk. As hard as it is to live with, it's impossible to live without. At Merrill Lynch, we know that risk can be dealt with. It can be managed. It can even be turned to your advantage. To do that, you need a partner. A partner who understands it and can help you turn a world of risk into a world of opportunity. Merrill Lynch. We're bullish on the future.
Yeah, how far away do you think I can get in 72 hours?
I wouldn't trust my car past the city limits.
For the way you travel today more than ever, the Smart Money is on budget. Now at Budget, get a Lincoln or minivan with unlimited mileage for just $199 per week. The Smart Money is on budget.
The GE 2800 dishwasher. It does almost everything but clear the table.
GE, we bring good things to life.
The LPGA Tour comes to CBS when a top field competes at the Centel Classic, continuing today on CBS Sports.
I feel angry and I feel like I've been violated. There are times that I've cursed them, and at the same time, I want them to reappear. I want to know what's going on.
Intruders, they are among us. And on May 17th, you will believe.
This is CBS.
Dodge Caravan. A special family value package means you get air conditioning at no extra charge. And that's not all. Now, 500 cash back means a price starting as low as $13,766, making Caravan the obvious choice during the Dodge Dare to Compare Challenge. See your nearest Dodge dealer today and compare.
So, you've decided to have a baby. Now's the time to learn some very important facts about Des Moines General Hospital. We're everything a hospital should be, not a baby factory. We don't deliver babies by the dozens every day. That means you get an incredible amount of personal attention. During the most active times of your labor, you will get one-to-one care from our experienced OB nurses. It's care and experience that really count. Des Moines General Hospital. Better at what matters.
John Deere is proud to introduce 3 new walk-behind mowers. One's a mulching mower that's good for the environment because it eliminates grass clippings. This one offers easy rear bagging, and finally there's one that gives you the convenience of side discharge. You get all 3 mowers when you buy just this one. The new John Deere Tricycler mower, available now at your John Deere dealer.
Available at Great American Outdoor and Rental Urbandale, Southward Implement Company Marshalltown, Van Wall Equipment Incorporated Perry.
Sole Survivor, the Mia Seosin story, tonight. It's Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is Charles Kuralt.
The fire this time began when a California jury delivered its verdict in the case of 4 white police officers charged with assault. Not guilty, said the jurors. And then came the verdict of the streets. Betsy Aaron reports our Sunday morning cover story.
It breaks my heart to see what's happened.
I think the worst is over.
And it is a much calmer morning again.
The calm is deceptive. These are the sounds you could hear from the streets of South Central Los Angeles this past week.
This is attempted murder.
I knew they was going to do this. I just knew it. My kids constantly ask Mama why, Mama why. Mama don't have an answer for this.
An African-American, Rodney King, was beaten. 4 white policemen were charged. A jury with not one African-American on it found the policeman not guilty.
Not guilty of the crime of assault. Not guilty of the crime of officer. Not guilty of the crime of assault by force likely to produce great bodily injury and with a deadly weapon.
When that verdict was announced, I had this just numbing mixture of emotions. One part disbelief, one part horror that could happen, one part tremendous anger.
Dr. Lawrence Bobo, a sociology professor at UCLA, studies racial attitudes in urban America.
It symbolized to me that the gulf between black and white in terms of just recognition of basic humanity is much wider than I had ever imagined it to be.
Fully involved. I think it looks like the fire department, they've been putting water on it for a while. You can see that it's burned down through the top 2 floors at least. And
inside the houses on the streets that were burning, families watched their neighborhoods melt.
Dozens of buildings had been torched, and fire trucks couldn't get anywhere near.
Well, they may have stayed at Jim's mom's house because I can't get him on the phone.
Lena Jones and her daughter Monique.
When I went to the store today, I thought, you know, somebody was going to come terrorize me because blacks have started something that they can't stop. I've never been through this before, but from what my mother said, it's worse now than it was, 27 years ago, the Watts riot.
The burning and looting, the shooting and beating went on for nearly a week. 34 persons were killed, all but 5 of them Negroes.
More than 1,000 persons injured or wounded. More than 200 business places destroyed by fire. 700 more smashed, looted, and damaged.
Black people have a lot of hate. Isn't 1992 a time of hate? Yes, it is. Very, very similar, just done differently. But the same thing exists, and that is a belief about a group of people that has been stereotypical throughout 400 years.
In Watts, a contained area, a rather small area, burned. This riot is different. This riot is branching out. This riot is touching the white neighborhoods.
Yeah, it does seem very different in that way, that the striking out, the violence, the arson and so on is moving outward and outward. And I think that's another sign that the anger this time, the rage this time, the hurt this time is more deeply felt.
The looting here is going on. People are taking shopping baskets literally inside and outside the store. We saw
Look, they're proud of that. And they want change.
Pictures of what it is like inside the supermarket as it is being looted.
Karen Varvey and her daughters Olivia and Missy live in Simi Valley, a mostly white community about an hour's drive from Los Angeles.
There's probably a lot of poor people in there, too.
This is the place where the 4 white policemen were tried and acquitted.
Was that the market? That was the market. Owned by the Korean family?
Yeah. I thought for sure a hung jury, perhaps, that there would be no way all 12 would say not guilty. But it came off, and it was very stunning, and it was disappointing. And I think for the first time, I don't know, I kind of felt for the black community. You hear that things aren't fair, but you say, no, that's not the way it is. It doesn't happen that way. But it really felt like something wasn't fair.
Varvey isn't the only one here who thinks the verdict wasn't fair. She worries about the mothers and the children living in the midst of all the violence.
I wish I could just say, come live with me. Come out of there, bring your kids away. It's not real realistic, but it's hard to know what you can do. As close as we are, we're worlds apart.
All the concern and empathy can't cover up the fact that people living here really know nothing about the people living here.
We're reasonable people, and, you know, we're just as friendly as they are. We have white picket fences, too. You know, dogs in the yard. Tell them to come down here, get an apartment and see how we live, and then they'll get a pretty good insight of how we really are.
We never really have understood each other very well, have we?
Unfortunately, I don't think so. We have a racially segregated society here, so that the physical distance between these people is enormous. The economic distance between these people is enormous.
Hi, Ramona Ripston. I think whites don't understand the desperation.
Ramona Ripston heads the Los Angeles office of the American Civil Liberties Union.
Horrified. It's not just black-white. Let me tell you that. It is black and Asian and Latino and black and Latino and Asian, and then different groups against whites. There is very distinct polarization in this community.
So many of the people who live in this city are hurting, and so many of those who are hurting are minorities. They are unemployed or poorly educated and poorly paid. They are homeless, they are ill, and they are without hope. What's more, they feel victimized by the police.
We can't condone violence and arson and beating innocent people, but it often proves to be the only way to get serious attention to these problems. And I hope this is a sufficient shock to the system, to a society that felt it was making racial progress, that things had been dealt with well coming out of the 60s, to say that there are still fundamental and deep problems here that we don't yet have adequate answers to.
It's easy to just live in your own little world and say, it doesn't affect me, so I'm not going to worry about it. But this is one thing that it's really brought it home. This is not overseas. It's not some war that doesn't really concern us. It's not even New York. This is home. This is where we live. This is where we live.
In the end, that's really what it boils down to. This is where we live, and this is where we live.
Attention to detail in the Mitsubishi Diamante LS goes much deeper than luxury and comfort. It includes traction control, advanced technology associated with Lexus and Infiniti. Diamante's traction control is part of a comprehensive safety system that reflects Mitsubishi's idea of luxury. The Diamante LS. From Mitsubishi, the word is getting around.
The accident took my arm, and I thought my job. I just couldn't do what I used to. So Liberty Mutual gave me a Boston elbow. Its power and flexibility gave me back the ability to do my job, which gives me back the ability to pick up a paycheck.
I'm paid to buy the high-volume copiers. I don't want to have to worry about them.
The corporate line from Canon.
It's simple. If our copiers are working, our people are working.
High-volume copying systems so reliable, you don't have to think about them.
All I want to know is it keeps copying, sorting, stapling. End of story.
The corporate line from Canon, the #1 copier company, and the new power in high-volume copying.
I'm trying it and I feel great.
It's Grape Nuts. Try it for a week.
Breakfast with Grape Nuts helps keep us going all morning. It's a natural energy source and it's fat-free.
Post Grape Nuts cereal. Try it for a week.
You'll feel so good you did.
Your dentist told you about plaque, but you didn't listen. You need the new Braun Oral-B Plaque Remover. It removes plaque just like your dentist wants you to.
That shelf should hold now, Doc.
The Braun Oral-B Plaque Remover.
Time for a television review from John Leonard. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Charles. There was a time, I was very young, when I thought Seven Pillars of Wisdom was a great book. So I read Robert Graves on Lawrence of Arabia to find out more about the hero who wrote that book. Then, of course, I went to David Lean's movie, starring Peter O'Toole knee-deep in the blood of Turks, plus lots and lots of sand. I'm much older now, and I've read Edward Said on Orientalism, and I'm more suspicious of heroes in general, and in particular of archaeologists on camels and Westerners who cross-dress as Bedouins. But the little boy in me dies hard, and so does the Hollywood. If you too want to know more about what happened to Lawrence after Arabia, there's a splendid 2-hour episode of great performances Wednesday night on public television, called A Dangerous Man. It could have been called Lawrence Goes to the Treaty of Versailles. Lawrence, played by Ralph Fiennes, and the Emir Faisal, played by Sedig El Fadil, whom he assisted in the conquest of Damascus, go to the 1919 Paris Peace Conference, expecting at least Syria, and maybe the self-determination of all Arab peoples.
Your Excellencies, our cause is this, that all Arabic-speaking regions should enjoy individual independence.
During the war against Germany and her Ottoman Empire allies, after all, the British made certain promises to the Hashemites. But the French detained Faisal's rail car. A British diplomat is contemptuous of the Arab prince.
The Emir's father's title.
Anything
What about it? Well, we've got to get it right, haven't we?
And Lloyd George, Clemenceau, and Woodrow Wilson have another agenda. And so, after some horsing around, and even some unlikely falconry, Lawrence resorts to his own celebrity to pull an end run.
Colonel Lawrence. I need to see Mr. Churchill. It's very important.
I'm sorry. He's had to go to London.
This requires him to knock on many doors.
Prime Minister.
Lawrence, you're still here.
To steal some secrets. To ride a motorcycle. And to disappoint Madame Dumont.
I cannot respond to you as though it's simply not within my power to do so.
Meanwhile, being famous in the Lowell Thomas newsreels and with the vampire press doesn't make him happy.
I'm imprisoned in a lie. My whole life is a lie.
He may think of himself as the only informed freelance European, but the British take a different view.
This is the act of a traitor. You have performed the function of an enemy spy. You've turned on your country and your race.
Of course, a peace conference is harder to dramatize than a desert war. And it helps to know a bit beforehand about Lawrence's sexual and historical traumas, as well as the Treaty of Versailles. But Christopher Menault, who also directed Prime Suspect, does his remarkable best with a remarkable cast. Of Lawrence, Winston Churchill shrewdly said, "A rare beast will not breed in captivity." More than Lawrence, though, A Dangerous Man is also about colonialism. Instead of Faisal, the French got Syria, and the British took the Persian Gulf for themselves after their geologists discovered oil deposits. That was the secret agenda. Later on, as a sop from Churchill, Faisal got a brand new country called Iraq. All this history, going back at least to the Crusades, helps explain the Middle East today. Somewhat the worse for wear, of course, after those smart bombs dropped last year on Babylon and Nineveh, on Abraham's birthplace and Jonah's tomb and Sinbad the Sailor, on the Garden of Eden and so much bloody sand.
She is one of America's toughest drug enforcement agents. Last year, she helped convict 90 drug dealers, seize several tons of crack and marijuana, and close down 10 major drug operations. She is a 68-year-old grandmother named Irma. Listen up. Home stereo.
Car stereo.
And every
Portable stereo
is on sale.
Listen up.
CD. Every
cassette
is on sale.
Listen up.
Boom boxes.
Car deck.
Speakers.
On
sale. Thousands on sale.
Every audio product. Tape decks.
Amps. Receivers.
Thousands of CDs.
On sale.
Cassettes.
Listen up.
On
Sale.
portable components. Every audio product. On
Sale.
This week.
Listen up.
On
Sale.
on
Listen and listen up.
Listen up.
At Best Buy.
And in our dream house, we'll have a workshop.
Yeah, and a big family room.
And air conditioning we can really count on. Nothing but the best.
Must be true love.
Must be a Lennox.
Nobody gives you more value than Logier. Call Logier today. Ask for details on money-saving rebates of up to $700 on Lennox air conditioning systems, furnaces, and heat pumps. That's value from Logier, serving Des Moines since 1906.
Now, see your local dealer for special savings.
Plaza Collections at Homemakers West is now open. One of the companies featured will be Century Furniture, one of the elite manufacturers in the furniture industry. I would like to introduce the staff of Plaza Collections: Jack Benoit, Gloria Severino, Mary Spatz, Michael O'Keefe. They have many years of decorating experience. Stop in, browse at leisure. You're always welcome. Plaza Collections at Homemakers West, 104th and Douglas.
We'd like to thank the editors of the car magazines for all the kind words they've said about the Lexus LS400. If they have any superlatives left, we suggest they review our special lease. See Betts Lexus Des Moines about our limited time special lease.
Belson is still drumming. At the Elmhurst College Jazz Festival outside Chicago, he recently performed with old pros who go back with him to the 1940s. Clark Terry, Conte Gondoli, Terry Gibbs, even today, when Louis opens up, they listen.
One of my heroes, sir.
Oh, thank you, man.
Louis, can I get a picture with you?
Yeah, sure.
I caught you in Toledo, Ohio. You did a thing with Toledo Jazz
Toledo,
Orchestra.
that's the home of Art Tatum.
In Anaheim, California, Belson is the star attraction at a music industry convention.
There we go. Okay, man. Yeah, right there. Yeah. Little concert toms. Little one goes on the left side, one's going to the right.
Louis Belson is 67. He started playing the drums as a 3-year-old in Moline, Illinois.
Dad had a music store, and he played all instruments. And I remember him taking me to a parade. And the minute that drum section came by, you know, that's like sitting right in the middle of a symphony orchestra with all those string players around you, and all that sound envelops you. And man, when I heard the sound of those drums, I pointed my little finger, I said, that's what I want to play.
Belson was 17 when he beat out 40,000 other contestants to win a nationwide drumming contest sponsored by Gene Krupa. He was 19 when Benny Goodman hired him. Belson went on to play with other great band leaders: Ellington, Basie, Tommy Dorsey, Harry James. He's backed up singers from Frank Sinatra to his late wife, Pearl Bailey. Through all those years, he created his own kind of music on the drum set.
People used to say to me, we've got 17 guys in the drummer in the band. I say, well, wait a minute, I'm a part of the band. They used to say, no, you guys are noisemakers. I said, no, we're sound makers.
Now, you play more drums, more actual drums than most jazz drummers. Why?
Well, the reason for the 2 bass drums, that's what makes my drum set much bigger, maybe twice as big as a normal set. As a soloist, if you could repeat with your feet what you could do with your hands, great.
Belson has composed several symphonic works. He's in performance here with the Cookeville, Tennessee Symphony Orchestra. This work is called Percussion International. Was Louis Belson's whole life for almost 4 decades. She died in 1990.
And then one fine day, he'll come my way, that man who really loved me. It's nice when you get older and wiser. These things happen. Louis Bellson and the Big Band Explosion playing Carnaby Street.
After being on the stage with her for 38 years, I got so used to seeing that lady perform, and now it's almost like a void. You know, you do a show, you say, well, what's missing? Yeah, I know what's missing. Pearl's missing.
Francine Wright, Dave Weckl.
Louis was finally helped in his grief when a new person came into his life. Just a few weeks ago, Louis announced his engagement to Francine Wright.
Welcome to the family.
And how do you do?
Belson loves to play with college jazz bands when he tours. In Cookeville, he jammed with the band at Tennessee Technological University.
What do you think of the young musicians that are coming out of these schools?
Oh, they're fantastic. The only thing that worries me now is where do they go after college? You know, those that are really the dedicated ones stick it out, and it's tough, but there's so many of them today, and they're all good. And they got the tools. They're just aching for a chance to express themselves.
Louis Bellson has built up a half-century of respect and love in the jazz world. What is impressive to see is the number of young people who seek him out, as a performer and as a person. Here's a man who symbolizes continuity in jazz, touching one generation after another.
You just keep growing, just keep moving. I mean, you're going to keep on doing that, right?
Oh, yeah, right. It never ends, right, Billy?
That's right.
But that's the exciting thing about music. You know, every day, to me, I think a player is only as good as his next concert. And so what I do this afternoon tonight, that tells a story, you know. But I love that excitement of knowing that tomorrow I can wake up and learn some new tunes and learn some new beats, and it goes on and on. That's what's so great about it.
every night at the issues that affect you every day. Eye on America, only on the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. Are you an easy target for a con artist?
Slim slam, dollar slim slam.
You won't be if you watch Scam on 48 Hours Wednesday.
This is CBS.
The John Deere Tricycler is a terrific mulching mower. But there are times when your grass grows too long to mow.
Tomorrow's forecast, sunshine.
When that happens, you can change your tricycler into a rear bagger and collect your clippings. The John Deere Tricycler Mower.
Available at Four Seasons Lawn and Rental Ames, Schenkelberg Implement Carroll, Steenhoek Implement Company, Knoxville.
I'm used everywhere, man, I'm used everywhere. Across the desert fair, man, up in the mountain air. People all declare, man, I'm used everywhere. I'm used in Brighton, Clarkson, Stapleton, Tullarus, Pendleton, Madison, Denison, Alamosa, Hot Springs, Rock Springs, Soda Springs, Pocatello, Fargo, Pueblo, Provo, Walla Walla, Sioux City, Rapid City, Junction City, Moose Lake, Crater Lake, Devil's Lake, Salt Lake, for Pete's sake, I'm used everywhere.
It's the one that gets used. U.S. West Direct.
Ford trucks are #1 for the 6th year in a row, and to say thanks, your Ford dealers are giving you Truck Month. 30 days of the biggest savings of the year on every Ford truck, van, and sport utility in stock. Like the hot new Ford Explorer, the best-selling vehicle in its class. During Truck Month, save over $1,900. Or how about the perfect family vacation vehicle, Ford Aerostar, loaded with all this and Truck Month price less than $13,800. But Truck Month is only during May, so hurry while the selection is still great.
John Walters on TV8, Iowa's news leader.
Presenting the faucet. Funny thing about faucets, you might think they're all the same until you look into a Price Vista faucet. Price Vista faucets are, in a word, fabulous. Since they have a heart of solid brass, the fact is they hold up better and longer. No fooling. Nice, too. They're affordable. So when you're faced with getting a faucet, get a Price Vista, the fabulous faucet with the funny name.
This is the biggest oven I've ever seen.
Introducing a GE gas oven with sealed burners and 30% more oven space, all in the same kitchen space. The new XL44 from GE.
You've made too much food. Ariel, you're a pain in the...
It's the big oven everyone's talking about.
It's Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is Charles Kuralt.
30 years ago, as James Baldwin was writing The Fire Next Time, Edward R. Murrow was preparing Harvest of Shame, a television documentary on the migrant workers of this country. It, too, was an indictment and a challenge and a plea for justice. Sad to say, Baldwin and Murrow would still have reason to plead for justice all these years later. Even so, as David Culhane is about to tell us, for some migrant workers at least, there is now not just a harvest of shame, but also of hope.
That's one of the things about working in the fields. You get a chance to think a lot, and I thought a lot. When I was 8 years old and thinking about what my life was going to be like, and the only thing that I could see was the same thing. My parents had done the same thing I was doing now, and knowing that there had to be something better, but wondering if I was ever going to get a chance to get it.
I started when I was about 9 or 10 years old in the fields. You know, there were things from picking tomatoes to cucumbers, picking watermelons, planting onions. I even remember picking cotton way back when. I can remember thinking about, I don't want to do this, you know, forever.
I remember getting sometimes a little bit frustrated and throwing my little hoe that you cut asparagus with and kind of like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I've got to go to school. This is what I want to do.
What have you to show for picking?
But for generations, the children of migrant workers had no hope of going on with school, no hope of going to college. Edward R. Murrow made that point in 1960 in the documentary Harvest of Shame.
Approximately 1 out of every 500 children whose parents are still migrant laborers finishes grade school. Approximately 1 out of every 5,000 ever finishes high school. And there is no case upon the record of the child of a migrant laborer ever receiving a college diploma.
Harvest of Shame was the inspiration for a program designed to find a way to college for the children of migrant farmers. She comes from a family of migrant workers. Her parents had no way to go to college. But Maricela Rodriguez is in first year at St. Edward's University here in Austin, Texas.
The last time I worked in the field was this summer, actually. So I was out there picking strawberries. I figured the only way out of there was to come to college and start kind of like a new life out here. How many business courses can I take next semester, you know, for a business major?
She has a scholarship through CAMP, College Assistance Migrant Program. CAMP helps the children of migrant workers in their freshman year with a combination of university, government, and private money. The program has helped more than 1,900 young people attend college.
I'm all wet. Sorry. So excited about all this.
Karen got a job in Los Angeles.
This spring, many of those students return to St. Edward's for the 20th anniversary celebration of camp.
That's me and this year.
Maricela's brother, Geronimo Rodriguez, was there, helping with the preparations for the celebration. He graduated from St. Edward's 2 years ago.
So you just twist it so it won't leak. What about the stuff on the American Bar Association, criminal justice?
Now he's on the staff of the Texas State Attorney General.
You want to let Robert know some of that sense of like, wow, I can't believe it, you know, what I'm doing.
Were you sort of uptight when you first arrived and worried?
Uptight, yeah. It's the best way to put it. I was kind of scared.
Yeah.
The first 3 nights here, I never spent a night away from my parents.
But it sounds like they had a program designed to support you as you start this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the program in itself kind of substituted for the closeness of my family.
The sense of family is one of the powerful elements in camp. Each student has a mentor who is a graduate of the program, Alex Elizondo.
I thought it was really important becoming a mentor because when I came in, I remember what it was like, you know, not to have anyone to talk to because I couldn't rely on my parents to tell me about what was coming up.
The 20th anniversary celebration of camp triggered emotional memories for many of the returning students, like Alex and his friend, Keta Cortez. She's well on her way to a doctorate in chemistry. She remembers thinking about her parents during her first year at St. Edward's.
There's a lot of guilt. You're here, you're getting 3 meals a day. They're there. You're not working out in the field. You're not doing what they're having to do just to eat. My daddy was having to support 12 kids on $9,000. And you think about it.
doing just research now.
But her success opened the way for her sisters and brothers to come to St. Edward's.
My mother right now, they're both encouraging my little brothers to apply to the program for next year. So it's come a long way. It's been like a family experience for us.
This is my dad and my mom. They came up from the valley for the reunion.
And for Geronimo Rodriguez, it's been a family experience.
And that's my brother Albert. For them to be here at St. Edward's University, where I used to walk these halls, where I used to, walk around the corridors here, is just another way of connecting them to that part of me that they kind of left back in August of 1986, when the first time that they dropped me off here at St. Ed's. My mom, Maria.
We always sit and talk, and I always encourage them, to go to school, so they can try to be somebody,
If they would have stayed with us, it would have been just working in the fields, and
this is my mom.
that we didn't want that to happen.
For generations, the children of migrant workers had no hope of going on to college.
To celebrate the years and hours, the blood, sweat, and tears of your parents and grandparents. And so today we celebrate all of that field that we are a part of, all of that earth that we are.
College for me was a dream, and it was a secret dream that I kept, and I wouldn't share it with anybody. I felt that if I shared it, I would somehow destroy it. And what I found out, it was that by sharing it, it became possible for me, and it became a reality.
Okay, everybody ready?
I mean, this weekend is a chance to look back at the dream and find out that it did come true, and now I made it, I lived the dream, and now it's the future. I'm writing it myself. It's a blank page, and I get to write it as I go along.
1, 2, 3.
There's lots of ways to have garlic. The Kwai difference is the consistency of garlic qualities of this easy-to-swallow tablet. There's no better way to have garlic than odor-free Kwai.
I've heard a lot about garlic. Kwai is odor-free and so easy to swallow.
Kwai is available at quality drugstores, health and natural food stores, and general nutrition centers.
It's the best, and it's odor-free.
Kwai, science and nature working for you.
What traits do you look for in a financial firm? A herd mentality? Unsteadiness? Complacency? Or do you look for strength? Stability? Knowledge of the world? What traits do you look for?
Mitsubishi believes that a luxury car should offer something beyond the usual luxuries. It may be extraordinary power and control. A consummate blend of comfort and performance. Or a state-of-the-art four-wheel drive system. The Diamante, the 3000 GT, the new 1992 Montero. Luxury as defined by Mitsubishi. The word is getting around.
Now there are cars and trucks that run on clean-burning natural gas.
Yeah, but how clean can it be?
Natural gas reduces the emissions that cause smog by 80%.
Yeah, but what does it cost?
It's like saving 40 cents a gallon on gasoline.
Yeah, but where does it come from?
Natural gas comes from right here in North America.
Yeah, but who makes the vehicles?
America's automakers are turning out fleets of natural gas cars and trucks.
Yeah, but do they come with tinted windows?
Well, after this last week, the question for the country, of course, is where do we go from here? Let's have a talk with Eric Engberg in Washington. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Charles. I spent most of my week at the Justice Department, where they're scrambling very hard to, I guess the way to phrase it would be to say, to sweep up what they can of the mess left in the wake of the Rodney King verdict. And the important thing to watch for now in the next few weeks will be a Justice Department, a United States federal grand jury meeting in Los Angeles, hearing evidence not on the question of whether Rodney King was beaten illegally by police, because that's a state issue, but by an altogether separate federal question of were his civil rights violated, his constitutional rights as an American citizen, by police officers acting under the cloak of law. The interesting thing about this, Charles, is that this whole investigation was put off until after the state had finished its prosecution. Now the separate federal investigation moves apace or moves ahead, and more than the 4 police officers who were involved in the original state trial do face the federal investigation. I believe there were about 17 California law enforcement officers at the scene when Rodney King was beaten, and all of them are now going to be talking to federal investigators about whether they took part in the violation of his civil rights.
There's a precedent for this, isn't there? The Justice Department seems to do this rather regularly in cases of this sort.
That's correct. It does not get the kind of attention or national publicity, but there have actually been about 125 of these prosecutions under the civil rights statutes in the last 3 years. They have a very good conviction rate on them also, about 75%, although in some somewhat famous cases, like the McDuffie case in Miami, which you probably remember, Charles, 10 years ago, police officers who killed a man, a black Floridian, leading to riots and terrible damage down there. The Justice Department prosecuted one of those policemen under the civil rights statutes, and they lost that case.
Yeah, well, I know they've lost some of them. Going back to the 50s, I remember they're losing cases like this. But look, they've sent in the federal investigators from the Justice Department. The White House has sent in the troops. It's always good at sending in troops. And, of course, in this case, the president had to. But there hasn't been very much from the White House that I have heard on this much larger question of how we get along together in this country. What are we going to do about the basic problems which exist not only in Los Angeles, of course, but here in New York and in Detroit and Chicago and every big city in the country?
I think that anybody that's been involved in the coverage of the American cities for the last 20 years and the political response to the problems of the cities is looking back over the events of the last 4 days and saying, how far have we come since 1968? Maybe that far. I mean, it is a frightening thing to think that there were commissions and studies and reports written, there were programs developed, and what happened to most of them, Charles, was nothing, because we ended up not funding them properly, not pursuing them under the last 2 administrations very effectively. When the black civil rights leaders sat down with the president on Thursday to talk about how they could get the Los Angeles situation under control, they looked across a room filled with cabinet-level officials, all of whom were white. President Bush, according to sources who were in the room, was very interested in what they had to say and took a lot of notes and asked a lot of thoughtful questions. But this administration, over the last 3 years, has not talked much about the problems of the cities or the problems of race in America. And, of course, in the black population and in the other minority populations, I think George Bush is still remembered as a man who won the presidency in part running on the coattails of Willie Horton. And so there is a great deal of mistrust and suspicion. And the real problem, looking down the road, Charles, is that there isn't much money in the federal budget, even for emergency moves, to try to redress some of the problems of the cities, given the state of the economy.
Well, I can tell you, you can tell me, the mayors of this country really do not think they have a friend in the White House, and they don't think they've had one for the last 12 years. And if the mayors feel that way, how must the poor disenfranchised folks out there feel? It seems to me that the president is going to have, especially in an election year, is going to have to address this problem.
Just from the cynical political standpoint, the Republicans have been able over the last 10 years to talk away from the problems of the cities and to gear their message towards the white suburbs, which are the growing part of America and which is where the votes are and where the Republicans are. So when they run for national office, they can use what are called wedge issues. That is to say, talk about welfare cheating and the need to get the welfare budget under control and They can talk about how we shouldn't be using quotas, which is a sort of a code word for opposition to affirmative action programs. And I think that politically, there's no doubt that wedge politics has worked. All of the polls show that it's helped keep the Reagan, what are called the Reagan Democrats, who tend to be blue-collar voters, inside the Republican Party. I think that what may have happened here with the Los Angeles tragedy is that some of these white, middle-class, upscale voters who live in the suburbs might look toward the cities and say, you know something, we're all in this together. That we better have a government that is sensitive to the problems of the inner cities, because it isn't of much use to be able to move to a nice home with a green lawn in the suburbs if we've got to be continually looking over our shoulders at the problems of the inner city and the possibility that there may be riots and killing and so forth. Yeah. And I think that the positive side of this King affair may be that politicians will begin to think a little bit beyond the immediate constituency that they're trying to please in the white suburbs, and will start to gear some of their thinking to the more serious problems of the country. I mean, we all have to live here. Yeah.
Well, if that could happen in the minds of politicians, this thing could turn out to be a blessing after all, I guess, Eric. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Charles.
When Tokyo Electric Power turned to GE for its advanced turbine technology, it gave Tokyo the largest, most efficient power plant of its kind in the world, which means more jobs for people back home and a better future for the people of Japan.
Yeah, how far away do you think I can get in 72 hours?
I wouldn't trust my car past the city limits.
For the way you travel today more than ever, the Smart Money is on budget. Now at Budget, get a Lincoln or minivan with unlimited mileage for just $199 per week. The Smart Money is on budget.
I'm paid to buy the high-volume copiers. I don't want to have to worry about them.
The corporate line from Canon.
It's simple. If our copiers are working, our people are working.
High-volume copying systems so reliable, you don't have to think about them.
All I want to know is it keeps copying, sorting, stapling. End of story.
The corporate line from Canon, the #1 copier company, and the new power in high-volume copying.
Your dentist told you about plaque, but you didn't listen. You need the new Braun Oral-B Plaque Remover. It removes plaque just like your dentist wants you to.
That shelf should hold now, Doc.
The Braun Oral-B Plaque Remover.
Lots of margarines say they have a buttery taste even when there's no butter in them. Kraft Touch-A-Butter spread has creamy, rich butter in it. Just a touch. Kraft Touch-A-Butter. A touch of real butter makes a real difference.
We have composed an ode to Secretariat this morning. Some horse always wins the Kentucky Derby. Some horse won it yesterday. Once or twice in the lifetime of people who care about racehorses, the Derby is won by a truly great horse, a legend for the ages. And every horse that's born in Kentucky at this time of year, forevermore, is going to be compared to Secretariat.
First time in the hall, Tom. This is a pretty nice big foal.
A rite of spring in the Kentucky horse country, the birth of a thoroughbred.
First time outside.
This one is barely 12 hours old. At Stone Farm, the winner of 2 Kentucky Derbies, Arthur B. Hancock III, is looking the youngster over.
Well, you look for soundness, for good straight legs. You look for balance, and you look for good muscles. And I like myself a good attitude.
In the fields, Hancock's yearlings, last year's newborn, gallop and grow toward adulthood.
It's hard to tell who's really got the courage. I mean, nobody can tell you who's going to be a good horse, but you can narrow the odds, you know, through experience.
Last year's yearlings, this year's 2-year-olds, are on the training track, finally finding out what they were bred for. The apple of Arthur Hancock's eye this spring is an unraced daughter of Secretariat.
Very proud looking, isn't she?
Any foal of Secretariat has the right to be mighty proud looking.
See how she walks with a sort of a wiggle? That's a real good sign in a horse. If you see that tail go to either side of the hocks and they kind of wiggle, they walk like a, you know, a model or whatever.
Her name is Risen Starlet. She has the distinction of being the very last of Secretariat's 661 offspring.
She's the last Secretariat foal born on Earth. As a yearling, she wasn't anything to look at. As a yearling, she was crooked and not really correct, sort of an ugly duckling. And now she's kind of blossoming out. And the balance, she's sort of balanced. Don't you think, like Secretariat? You give her another couple of months, she's going to look like her daddy.
And oh, what a horse her daddy was.
Woody, he looks like a million, doesn't he?
He does look like a million, but unfortunately in this next stall, there was that kind of electric feeling that draws crowds. They knew that they were going to see greatness.
With the great rounded rear end you see facing you is Secretariat.
Well, facing me... Haywood Hale-Brune covered the Belmont Stakes for CBS in 1973. That was the day Secretariat won the Triple Crown.
As a field, they all look wonderful. But you do have to say that Secretariat at this moment looks a little more wonderful with...
He came into this circle, pranced around. You remember he was a very handsome chestnut with a deep chest and was considered by connoisseurs of the horse to be perfect in his measurements. There was an excitement before he even ran.
And let me just ask you, Mrs. Tweedy, for a finish. You are confident, I'm sure.
No, I'm scared to death. Then there was so much pressure. First time in 25 years to win the Triple Crown, to win the Belmont.
Penny Chenery Tweedy was Secretariat's owner.
We were on the cover of 3 national magazines, and this is the kiss of death for Secretariat to be on the cover of Time. We thought, oh, he'll never overcome this.
They're moving on the turn now. For the turn at Secretariat. He looks like he's opening. The lead is increasing. Make it 3.5. He's moving into the turn.
Secretariat overcame the cover story jinx with the greatest performance a thoroughbred has ever given.
Secretariat is widening now. He is moving like a tremendous machine. Secretariat by 12. Secretariat by 14 lengths on the turn.
Secretariat was all alone, and he became more and more all alone as he made that great run down the stretch.
He's out there almost a 16th of a mile away from the rest of the horses.
He was running through the fire in his blood that made him think that even though he had no wings, if he went fast enough, he could fly up and join the horses in the sky.
He's into the stretch. Secretariat leads his field by 18 lengths.
I was in awe. It was the day he felt best in his life, and he was in the most important race of his life, which is the way extraordinary events happen.
He is going to be the Triple Crown winner. Here comes Secretariat to the wire. An unbelievable, an amazing performance. He hits the finish 25 lengths in front.
I still can't put in words how I felt, because I was so scared we weren't going to do it that I think I still haven't gotten used to the fact that we did.
An amazing, unbelievable performance by this miracle horse. And look at Mrs. Tweedy. She's having the time of her life. She and Lucy.
I got goosebumps all over me. And just sat there on the couch, and tears, you know, welled up in your eyes, and goosebumps come. And I get them right now thinking about it, that perfection.
Unbelievable is all you're hearing down
Perfection.
here.
Even after he stopped racing, the big red stallion remained the image of perfection. Nobody who ever saw him will ever forget him.
One of the reasons he became so beloved is that he didn't just go to pasture and sit there. He said, come see me, I'll give you a show.
I bite you a meal.
For 16 seasons, Secretariat stood at stud in his own private paddock at Claiborne Farm in Paris, Kentucky, a home of champions. He was the star of the place. People came from all over just to see him, as Haywood Hill Brune remembers.
We went down to see him with our cameras, and he was alone in a field early in the morning, and there were red leaves and white snow on the ground, and this big red horse moved across the field in an extended trot. And watching him move, you realized that he loved moving, that there was something in him that just made the motion of his body exhilarating to him. He seemed to know that he was something special, and you had only, as visitors did to the farm, you had only to produce the cheapest of little cameras, and his head went up and his nostrils flared. He loved to have his picture taken. He was a kind of Al Jolson of horses, if you will, who loved being in the spotlight.
I still get mail from people who tell me how they felt on Belmont Day, or how they felt when the horse died. He's not forgotten.
Secretariat is buried near Bold Ruler and Buck Passer in a horse graveyard, not far from the stall where he held forth for so many years, not far from Arthur Hancock's place, where the last of the great horse's foals, Risen Starlet, is going to school.
Come on, that's good. This is the first time in the starting gate. Sometimes they won't go through, and if you try to push them through, they can throw a fit. You just have to go very easy with them. Come on, that's a good girl. That's a good girl, see? See, that's not going to hurt you. Come on. Come on out. Okay, good job. You know, I was at Keeneland last fall, and a weird thing happened. Some guy came running up to me, and he really looked like he was a wino, and he was all hair, long hair, and he was sort of unkempt. And he said, "Don't sell that Secretariat filly." I said, "Well, I really wasn't planning on it." He said, "Don't sell that Secretariat filly." I said, "All right." A friend of mine said that guy probably was some sort of an angel or something telling me to keep her. We'll see in about a year.
And what if Risen Starlet, the absolute last Secretariat foal, really did grow up to become the image of her father? A truly great horse.
That would be another goose bumper.
Secretariat is widening now. He is moving like a tremendous machine. Secretariat by 12. Secretariat by 14 lengths on the turn. Secretariat has opened a 22-length lead. He is going to be the Triple Crown winner. Here comes Secretariat to the wire. An unbelievable, an amazing performance.
Of fx cosine squared over the derivative of sine cosine x to the fourth power. One has to first differentiate the reciprocal inverse powers of the equation, thus canceling the variables from both sides. This then allows us to apply Bohr's theorem to the entire equation, making sine cosine cubed now 4 times y sine minus the derivative of 6f of x squared, and making sine cosine squared equal to, anybody? Anyone got this?
8 years ago, BMW started a driving school in America.
The better a car feels to you, the better a car is engineered.
For BMW, a natural extension of an inherent belief.
The better driver you become.
That's quite a feeling to be able to go around a corner like that.
A belief that a well-engineered automobile should do more than simply improve the driver's image.
And I felt like I had control of the car instead of the car having control of me.
A better driver. The ultimate goal, of the ultimate driving machine.
Aha! So that's what happened to Dad's craft-free singles.
What free singles?
The fat-free kind. Helps Dad watch his fat and cholesterol.
Haven't seen them. Besides, we like them.
Sorry, campers, but these are different. See? Craft-free means fat-free. For Dad.
Aha!
Oh, we'll save him some. Any bread in this...
Craft-free singles. Flavor like that without the fat.
Imagine your refrigerator with bigger door shelves for bigger bottles, with leftovers left in quick-serve trays for leftover space, more space, nearly 27 cubic feet, and a door in the door for things you use more. Imagine GE's Space Center 27.
Los Angeles is quiet this morning. Troops patrol its streets. An all-day curfew remains in effect. But 2 courts in Los Angeles are open today. They are holding rare Sunday sessions in order to arraign some of the 7,500 people or so who were arrested during the 3 days of rioting in Los Angeles after the Rodney King verdict. Prosecutors are said to be making only slow progress because there's so much paperwork. A newspaper in Israel is telling its readers in an editorial this morning that the rioting in Los Angeles and the Palestinian uprising in Israel's occupied territories have something in common. The editorial says both disturbances are being caused among people who have nothing to lose and are provoked into violence. Well, we leave you this morning on a far shore washed by the Indian Ocean, down under in Australia, but not in the company of kookaburras or koalas or kangaroos. We leave you among black swans. I'm Charles Kuralt. I hope you'll join us here again next Sunday morning.
For a printed transcript of this broadcast, send $5 to Sunday Morning Transcript, Box 7, Livingston, New Jersey, 07039.
A brutal end to a brutal case. Or is it the end? What next for the King defendants? Prosecution and defense attorneys face the nation today.
You didn't know you owned an airline, did you? You not only own the planes, you pay for the gas every time some bureaucrat wants to go somewhere. 60 Minutes, tonight.
Tonight, a novelist is haunted.
Did you see her? Did you see her? Who?
By the death of his wife. Was it suicide?
Someone was trying to give us the most awful fright.
On Murder, She Wrote. Then, a woman desperate to save her marriage
I'm pregnant.
kidnaps another woman's child for her own.
She just took her.
Veronica Hamill, Nancy McKeon, Baby Snatcher, tonight.
This is CBS.
The John Deere Tricycler is a terrific mulching mower. But there are times when your grass grows too long to mow.
Tomorrow's forecast, sunshine.
When that happens, you can change your tricycler into a rear bagger and collect your clippings. The John Deere Tricycler Mower.
Available at Great American Outdoor and Rental Urbandale, Southard Implement Company Marshalltown, Van Wall Equipment Incorporated, Perry.
This is the Heartland. It seems no matter where you go these days, your checkbook isn't far behind. At Metropolitan Federal, you'll find a checking account to help you manage your money and keep your life in balance. Metropolitan Federal, the Heartland's bank for checking.
Sole Survivor, the Mia Seosin story, tonight.
Iowa Realty presents Home Buyer's Guide, your preview of 125 open houses in the greater Des Moines area, plus interesting and informative interviews, features on new construction projects marketed by Iowa Realty, current financial information, and other topics of interest to home buyers in the area. Your host for Home Buyer's Guide is Mike Pace.
Well, good morning and welcome to another edition of Home Buyer's Guide. Happy to report that my voice is back in shape today. And we have a busy 60 minutes for you here this morning, of course, talking about Iowa Realty open houses all over the greater Des Moines area. We'll show you 125 of them in the next hour. We'll talk financing. Of course, those rates are still excellent. Great time to get involved in the market. And we'll talk about the mortgage accelerator proposition, where you can save thousands of dollars, and Midland is here to tell you about that with Susie Robinette a little bit later. My guests will be here, Charlie Nichols, along with Kathy Davis, and we'll be talking about TNT construction a little later in the show. So stick around, don't miss that. We recommend, as you watch the show, to follow along with the real estate page from the Sunday Register, because inside you'll find a couple of hundred Iowa Realty open houses. You can cross-reference with the show and decide which ones you want to visit. So put the coffee on and join us as we go to West Des Moines on Home Buyer's Guide. 17th Street, West Des Moines is our very first open house, and Iowa Realty's Martha McReynolds.